In December of 2019, the SECURE Act, or Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement Act, was signed into law. Though this is one of the biggest pieces of retirement plan legislation we've seen in a long time, it has been overshadowed by 2020. There's been a lot going on, needless to say. It may be a while before we get back to any sense of normalcy that we saw before the pandemic, but it's a great time for us to take a step back and remember some of the highlights of the SECURE Act. First off, let's talk about small businesses and 401ks. Many small businesses shy away from offering employer-sponsored retirement accounts because they can be expensive and challenging to administer. The SECURE Act has tweaked many of these rules related to these tax-advantaged accounts to help offer incentives and make it easier for small employers to offer them. Let's talk about part-time employees and how they're affected by this bill. With the passing of the bill, businesses are now able to broaden the scope of those eligible by offering 401k to part-time employees who have 3 consecutive years of 500 plus hours worked. There's not a lot of opportunities to pull out money penalty-free when it comes to 401k. One of the things that this bill has introduced is the ability for investors to withdraw up to $5,000 from their 401k penalty-free to help cover some of the expenses of having or adopting a child. There's a provision in the SECURE Act that makes it easier for employers to offer annuities in the 401k plans. On the one hand, participants may use this for long-term income objectives when they retire. On the other hand, just like any other investment, participants really need to dig deep and make sure that will provide what they are looking for and that the fees associated with it actually make sense for their individual objectives. If you're familiar with 401ks, you may be familiar with required minimum distributions, or the amount of money that you're required to withdraw from your retirement plan once you reach a certain age. The required minimum distribution age has been 70 and a half for a long time. Why they have a half, I have no idea. Personally, I haven't talked about my age in halves since grade school. The required minimum distribution age has been pushed from 70 and a half to 72. This will allow retirement funds to grow a little longer and eliminate the tax burden on distribution for another 1.5 years. One of the big changes this bill had on the personal side is the elimination of the stretch IRA provision. The stretch IRA provision of the past allowed non-spousal beneficiaries to gradually spread out the account distributions over the course of their lifetime. However, the SECURE Act now requires all non-spousal beneficiaries of IRAs to take a full payout from their inherited IRA within 10 years of the death of the original account holder, which can be a big impact on beneficiaries given the tax burden the distributions can cause. The last takeaway of today is 529 flexibility. The SECURE Act allows investors to make up to $10,000 a year in student loan repayment using money in a tax-advantaged 529 account. This allows parents who have money remaining in a college fund to help a child that has already graduated. Now, we have just skimmed the surface on some of the major points of the SECURE Act. Here are a few takeaways. If you are a small business and you don't have a 401k, you may want to take a look at the tax incentives and see if it makes sense for you to start offering one. If you do have a 401k, this is a great time to review it. Review the plan documents, review the plan design, talk to your professionals to see how this impacts you and your business. This is also a great time to put together some education meetings surrounding financial wellness and the impacts these new changes will make on the individuals in your company. As always, our intention here is to provide meaningful education for you as a plan sponsor in 5 minutes or less. If you have questions, if you need a second opinion, please reach out to us. We're happy to help. If you have other education topics that you would like us to cover, please reach out to us. We have ongoing education material for 401k plans in our podcast, on our website. We have a blog, and we also have other episodes of 5 Minute Fiduciary. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.